So we had a class party today. It was kind of an unintentional party. I had brought cupcakes to give to the class as kind of an end of quarter celebration, and even though I hadn't asked anybody else to bring anything in, I had kids bringing in potato chips and pretzels and cookies and candy canes and an assortment of other goodies to share with everybody. So as I'm passing out the potato chips, one of my students who seems to know a little bit about a lot was saying that it was telling the story of how potato chips were invented. And his version of the story was that there was a chef who had sent out French fries to a table, and they got sent back, and he was mad, so he smashed them up and fried them and sent them back out. It got me thinking, what is the history of the potato chip, and how accurate was this student? So when I got home, I looked it up, and he wasn't that far off. It turns out that in 1853, a gentleman named George Crumb invented what was then called the Saratoga chip. George Crumb was born George Speck, and he was the child of an African American and a Native American. He originally was a trapper and eventually became known for his cooking skills and got a job at a restaurant called Carrie Moon's Lake House in Saratoga, New York. One of the items on the menu at Carrie Moon's Lake House in Saratoga were French fried potatoes that had become popular when Thomas Jefferson brought the recipe back with him after being an ambassador to France. And they were served in the typical fashion of the time, which was very thick cut, what we would probably call steak fries. And so an order had been placed for these French fried potatoes, and George Crumb prepared them as usual and sent them out. Well, apparently the customer found them to be too thick and sent them back. Said he didn't like them, they needed to be thinner. And so this customer was served 2 or 3 servings of progressively skinnier French fried potatoes. The last time that it got sent back, George Crumb apparently lost his temper a little bit, got a little fed up, and sliced the potatoes paper thin and fried them till they were crispy brown, and then put a whole lot of salt on them and sent them out. His intent was to irritate the customer and give the customer something that was completely inedible. That didn't work. The customer loved them. And word of these Saratoga chips spread, and people started requesting them when they would come to the Carrie Moon's Lake House. Eventually, George Crumb started his own restaurant in about 1860, and the restaurant operated for about 30 years. Saratoga chips, or as they eventually became known, the potato chips, were a staple of the restaurant that George Crumb opened, called Crumb's House. It wasn't until 1895 that potato chips went from being restaurant fare to being available in grocery stores. A gentleman named William Tappenden from Cleveland, Ohio, decided that he could make the potato chips, bag them, and sell them at grocery stores. The process of making the potato chips was somewhat laborious, as they had to be hand-peeled and sliced at the time. It wasn't until 1920, when the mechanical potato peeler was invented, that the potato chip became a widely available snack food because it became a lot easier to produce. The Utz family was one of the first to have a wide-scale distribution of their potato chips, and they were based out of Hanover, Pennsylvania. Sally Utz could make up to 50 pounds of potato chips every hour using hand-run machinery. Bill Utz would deliver the potato chips to small grocery stores and farmers markets anywhere between Hanover, Pennsylvania, and Baltimore, Maryland. In 1932, Herman Lay founded the Lay's Potato Chip Company and had a factory in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was also a traveling salesman And that's how the word of potato chips as a snack food spread, and how Lay's became synonymous with potato chips. Since then, potato chips have become one of the most popular snack foods in America, and retail sales come in at about $6 billion a year, and around 65,000 people are employed by potato chip companies. Well, thanks for joining me for Fascinating Fact Friday. I'll see you tomorrow for Sock Puppet Saturday. Bye!